Salam, peace be upon you. My name is Muhammad Layq Sadiqi, the father of Holofaz. Part 52. Error as pattern mismatch, not moral defect. We began with pattern itself. What can be compared, what stays the same through change. The fourfold identity gave us the bones. A pattern is itself across transformations, and we can prove it publicly. We learned to measure without smuggling time, to remember without storing the past, to model without confusing map and territory. Meaning, symbols, and language became tools for pointing, not for rewriting. Knowledge systems became communities of maintenance. Part 51 built the firewall between layers. Part 51.5 protected the past from future rewriting. Now we face the most human challenge. What happens when we are wrong? 1. The problem we now face, the weight of being wrong. Think about the last time we were wrong about something important. Maybe we misremembered the conversation and insisted on our version until proven otherwise. Maybe we made a prediction that failed spectacularly. Maybe we believed something about a person that turned out to be completely false. How did it feel? If we are honest, it felt awful. Embarrassment, shame, defensiveness, the urge to explain away, to minimize, to blame something or someone else. The desperate wish that the evidence would just go away so we could be right again. We are taught from childhood that being wrong is bad. Wrong answers get red X's. Wrong predictions get ridicule. Wrong beliefs mark us as foolish, careless, incompetent. Our schools, our workplaces, our cultures all reinforce the same message. Error is failure. This is one of the most destructive forces in all of human knowledge. Because if error is shameful, we hide it. If error is shameful, we explain it away. If error is shameful, we cannot learn from it. We can only cover it up. We build elaborate defenses to protect ourselves from the simple truth that we were mistaken. And a science that hides its errors cannot grow. A civilization that cannot acknowledge its mistakes repeats them forever. A person who cannot say, I was wrong, cannot become wiser. So we must reframe error entirely, not as moral failure, not as incompetence, not as shame, but as what it actually is. Error is lawful mismatch between claimed pattern structure and what the evidence actually supports. Let us say it simpler. Error is a signal. It tells us where our understanding hits its limits. What error actually is, the map and the territory. Imagine we have a map of a city. We use it to navigate. It works well for most streets. But one day, we follow it to a location and find nothing. The street we expected isn't there. The building we were looking for doesn't exist. We stand in an empty lot, map in hand, confused. Is the map wrong? Yes. But more importantly, the map has revealed something. It has shown us that our representation does not match reality. The mismatch is information. This is what error is in pattern science. A pattern claim is a kind of map. It says the pattern has this structure. The evidence, the actual patterns we can measure and replay, is the territory. When claim and evidence don't match, that's error. Not shame, not failure, not incompetence, just mismatch. Information about the relationship between our models and reality. The map is not bad because it has an error. The map is doing its job. It's showing us where we need more information, where our understanding is incomplete. Error is not the opposite of knowledge. Error is the engine of knowledge. Error across scales, a tour of mismatch. Let us watch error manifest at different scales of reality. At the quantum scale, a physicist measures an electron's position. Theory says it should be here. Measurement shows it there. Error. This particular mismatch, repeated and refined, led to the entire quantum revolution. It wasn't failure. It was discovery wearing the disguise of error. At the biological scale, a conservationist predicts a species will thrive in a protected area. 5 years later, the population has declined. Error. It tells us the models missed something: a predator, a hidden need, climate change. The error points where to look next. At the human scale, a doctor diagnoses a condition based on symptoms. Tests come back negative. Error. Not malpractice, not incompetence, just mismatch between pattern recognition and evidence. The error says, look again, consider other possibilities. At the cosmic scale, for decades, cosmologists predicted the universe's expansion should slow due to gravity. Then they measured it accelerating. Error. That mismatch led to dark energy, to new physics, to a completely revised understanding of the cosmos. The common thread: in every case, error is information. It tells us something about the relationship between our models and reality. It points to limits, to hidden variables, to wrong assumptions, to phenomena we haven't yet understood. The sources of error, a diagnostic toolkit. If error is diagnostic, we need to distinguish different kinds. Here are the main sources. Noise, random disturbance that obscures the pattern, like static on a radio, snow in a photograph, background chatter in a crowded room. The pattern is there, but noise makes it hard to see. Aliasing, sampling artifacts that create false patterns, like wagon wheels appearing to spin backward in movies, like a striped shirt producing moire patterns not present in the cloth. The world does one thing, our sampling makes it appear to do another. Hidden boundaries. The claim assumed conditions that weren't met, like a formula that works for small numbers but fails for large ones, like shoes designed for city streets failing on wet mountain rock. The claim wasn't false everywhere. It was applied beyond its proper scope. Wrong mappings. The interpretation layer got it wrong, like mistaking a warning for a greeting, like reading a graph upside down. The pattern is real, but we connected it to the wrong meaning. Overfitting, seeing patterns where none exist, like finding faces in clouds, like a child thinking birdsong causes rain because it happened twice. Our pattern seeking brains are so good at finding patterns that they find them even when they aren't there. Smuggling, hidden assumptions that weren't declared. The claims seemed pure but carried unexamined baggage, assumptions about time, about meaning, about context that weren't warranted by the evidence. Underdetermination. The evidence supports multiple possibilities, and we chose the wrong one. Like a detective with two plausible suspects, like a doctor with two possible diagnoses. The evidence alone doesn't tell us which is right. Notice, none of these sources involve moral failure. None are about laziness or stupidity. Each is a different kind of information about where our understanding meets its limits. The critical distinction: error versus fraud. Now we must make a distinction absolutely essential for any healthy knowledge system. Error is structural mismatch between claim and evidence. It happens honestly. It is part of science. It is inevitable. It is useful. It is information. Fraud involves intent to deceive. It is social pathology, not structural mismatch. It is not inevitable. It is not useful. It is corruption. Conflating these is disastrous. When we treat error as fraud, we punish honest scientists for being human. We create a culture of fear where people hide their mistakes rather than learning from them. We make it impossible to acknowledge uncertainty, to report negative results, to publish findings that don't fit the story. When we treat fraud as error, we fail to hold deceivers accountable. We let bad actors hide behind honest mistake when they have fabricated data, intentionally misled. Error belongs to the science. Fraud belongs to the social pathology of the scientific community. Error is diagnosed. Fraud is investigated. Error is inevitable. Fraud is avoidable. Error is signal. Fraud is malicious noise. This part is about error, not fraud, not deception, just honest mismatch between what we claimed and what we found. Two carpenters, two tables. Imagine a carpenter building a table. She measures carefully. She cuts precisely. She assembles with skill. But when she's done, one leg is slightly shorter than the others. The table wobbles. Error. What does she do? Does she feel shame? Does she hide the table? Does she pretend it's perfect? Does she blame the wood, the tools, the customer? No. She diagnoses. She finds which leg is short. She figures out why. Maybe a measurement error, maybe a warped piece of wood, maybe a mistake in the plan. She learns something, then she fixes it. Now imagine a different carpenter. He also builds a table that wobbles. But instead of diagnosing, he covers it up. He puts a shim under the short leg and pretends it was always perfect. He tells everyone his tables never wobble. He gets angry when someone points out the problem. Which carpenter will build better tables over time? The first, obviously. Error taught her something. The second learned nothing. He just got better at hiding. This is the difference between treating error as diagnostic and treating error as shame. The first carpenter's tables improve. The seconds do not. They just get better at hiding their flaws until they fail catastrophically. Science is the same. A science that treats error as diagnostic improves. A science that treats error as shame just gets better at hiding until it collapses under the weight of its own unacknowledged mistakes. The scout and the map. Imagine we are scouts sent to explore unknown territory. We carry a map, but we know it's incomplete. Our job is to check it against the actual terrain. We come to a river that's marked. Good. We come to a hill that's not marked. We note it. We come to a bridge that's marked but collapsed. We note it. We come to a mountain pass marked as safe, but we find it blocked. We note it. Now, are we bad scouts because the map had errors? No. Our job is to find the errors. The errors are the whole point of our mission. We are gathering information to improve the map. Error is not our failure. Error is our data. This is exactly the relationship between pattern claims and reality. We make maps. We explore the territory. Where they don't match, we learn. The mismatches are not our failures. They are our discoveries. 8. The child learning to walk. To understand the dignity of error, watch a child learning to walk. The child stands, tries, tilts, falls, rises, adjusts, tries again. If every fall were treated as moral defect, walking would become terrifying. But the fall is information. It reveals mismatch between current balance and actual body dynamics. The body learns, the nervous system updates, the child becomes more stable. Error is a teacher built into reality. The body says, this claim of balance was too strong. This movement overshot. This stance did not fit support. The mismatch is not wasted. It becomes correction fuel. This is true not only for walking. It is true for speaking, writing, healing, building, governing. A mismatch exposed is a path opened. Why hiding error destroys science? Imagine a world where no one admits error. Papers only report positive results. Negative results disappear into file drawers. Failed predictions are never mentioned. Wrong theories are quietly abandoned without explanation. What would happen? Science would grind to a halt because we would never know what doesn't work. We would never learn from failure. We would keep repeating the same mistakes because no one would tell us they were mistakes. This is not hypothetical. It has a name: publication bias. Studies that find positive results get published. Studies that find nothing get filed away. The result is a scientific literature that looks much more certain than it actually is. Treatments seem more effective. Theories seem more confirmed. Hidden error is wasted error. Visible error is wisdom. A science that cannot say, "I was wrong," is a science that cannot grow. What error teaches us? Error is not just information. Error is diagnostic information. It tells us specifically where our understanding is failing. Error tells us where models fail. A prediction that doesn't match observation says your model is incomplete or wrong. Error tells us where access is insufficient. A measurement that can't be replicated says your access to the pattern is not reliable. Error tells us where assumptions break. A formula that works in the lab but not in the field says your assumptions about conditions were wrong. Error tells us where mappings are wrong. An interpretation that leads to contradiction says the way you're connecting pattern to meaning needs revision. Error tells us where the science meets its limits. An effect that disappears when you look closer says you've reached the boundary of what you can currently know. Each error is a pointer. Each error is a question. Each error is an invitation to dig deeper. The error principle. Let us state the principle clearly. Error is part of honest fee pattern science. It reveals where pattern claims outrun lawful support. Error maps the boundaries of legibility. Error is not the end of inquiry. It is the beginning of deeper understanding. This principle transforms our relationship with being wrong. Instead of shame, we feel curiosity. Oh, interesting. My prediction failed. What can I learn? Instead of defensiveness, we feel openness. The evidence doesn't match my claim. What does that tell me about my assumptions? Instead of hiding, we share. Here's something that didn't work. Maybe it will help someone else avoid the same mistake. Instead of fear, we feel excitement. I found the edge of my understanding. What's on the other side? A personal note: learning to love being wrong. For years, I hated being wrong. I mean, really hated it. I would argue, deflect, explain away. I would feel the shame rising in my chest and do anything to make it go away. I thought this made me strong. It made me weak. Then I started paying attention to people who were genuinely wise. Not the ones who were never wrong. I couldn't find any of those. The ones who seemed to grow, to learn, to deepen over time. What I noticed, they were comfortable with being wrong. When evidence contradicted them, they got curious, not defensive. They said things like, "Oh, interesting, I hadn't considered that," or "Tell me more," or "I guess my model needs updating." They treated error as information. And because they did, they accumulated wisdom. Every mistake taught them something. Every wrong turn showed them where the path wasn't. I wanted that. So I started practicing. Now, when I'm wrong, I try to notice the feeling. the old shame, the defensiveness, and then set it aside and ask, what can I learn? What does this error tell me about my assumptions, my model, my understanding? It's not easy. The shame still comes. But I've learned to see it as noise, not signal. The signal is the error itself. And over time, something shifted. Being wrong stopped feeling like failure and started feeling like discovery. Every error became a gift, information I didn't have before, a chance to see more clearly. This is what we're building together. Not a science without error. That's impossible. A science that learns from error. A science where being wrong is not the end, but the beginning. 13. The paradox. Error makes science more reliable. Here is a beautiful paradox. A science that admits error freely becomes more reliable, not less. Think about it. If a scientist says, I was wrong, here's what I learned, we trust them more, not less. They've shown they care about truth more than about being right. They will correct course when evidence demands it. If a scientist never admits error, we become suspicious. Are they really that good, or are they hiding something? The appearance of infallibility is actually a reason for distrust. A field that publishes negative results, that celebrates corrections, that honors those who find errors, that field becomes more trustworthy. We know that when they say something is true, it survived attempts to prove it wrong. A field that hides errors, that punishes those who find mistakes, that pretends to certainty it doesn't have, that field becomes less trustworthy. We know that what they claim is filtered through a system that rewards confidence over accuracy. Error tolerance is not weakness, it is the foundation of trust. With error properly framed, we have clear grounds for refusal. We refuse any treatment of error that treats error as moral failure rather than structural mismatch, conflates error with fraud, hides error to protect reputation, ignores the diagnostic value of error, responds to error with shame rather than inquiry, punishes honest error as if it were misconduct, creates incentives to hide rather than share mismatches, uses error as blanket dismissal without analysis. Each refusal protects the conditions under which error can become wisdom. What error reports should include? When we report error, we should declare 1. What claim failed? The original claim with its context. 2. What evidence contradicted it? The observations that showed mismatch. 3. Suspected error source. Noise, aliasing, hidden boundaries, wrong mapping, overfitting, smuggling, underdetermination. 4. Diagnostic value. What does this error teach us? What should we investigate next? 5. Propose changes. What will we do differently? Correct the claim, refine the model, gather better data? This is not bureaucracy. This is the discipline that turns error from shame into wisdom. 16. The culture we need to build. We have all been in environments where error is dangerous, where admitting a mistake means losing respect, losing status, where meetings are performances of certainty and any uncertainty is weakness. Those environments do not produce good science. They produce defensive science. Science where people hide their errors, explain them away, blame them on others. Science that looks certain but is built on sand. We need something different. We need cultures where error is welcomed as information, where the person who finds an error is celebrated, not resented, where I was wrong is the beginning of a conversation, not the end of a career, where the question is always, what can we learn, not who can we blame? This is not soft idealism. This is hard practicality. Cultures that learn from error improve. Cultures that hide error stagnate and collapse. The choice is ours. Error as gift. There is a perspective shift available to us. Error is not a curse. Error is a gift. Every error is information we didn't have before. Every mismatch is a chance to see more clearly. Every failed prediction is a clue about where our understanding is incomplete. The universe is constantly giving us these gifts. Every experiment that doesn't work, every prediction that fails, every model that breaks, these are not punishments. They are teaching moments. The only question is whether we are willing to receive the gift, whether we can set aside our defensiveness, our shame, our need to be right, and simply say, "Thank you. What can I learn?" This is hard. It goes against everything we were taught, but it is possible. And when we manage it, the world becomes friendlier. Error becomes interesting rather than terrifying. Being wrong becomes an adventure rather than a disaster. We become learners rather than knowers, and learners keep growing forever. Handoff to what comes next. Now that we understand error as diagnostic, as information about where our claims outrun their support, we can turn to what comes next. What do we do with this information? We correct. Correction is the response to error. It is the process of adjusting our claims, our models, our interpretations to better match the evidence. It is how error becomes wisdom, how failure becomes growth, how mismatch becomes better match. But correction has its own discipline, its own requirements, its own gates. We cannot just fix things arbitrarily. We must correct lawfully, preserving what was valuable while adjusting what was wrong. That is where we go next. Part 53, Correction as Realignment, will give us the tools to respond to error productively, to adjust without rewriting history, to learn without retroactivity, to grow while maintaining integrity. Because error without correction is just pain. Error with correction is wisdom. 19. Closing meditation. We have come a long way together. We began with the simplest questions. What is a pattern? How do we know when two things are the same? We built layer by layer, protection by protection, until we could talk about meaning, language, institutions, and knowledge systems without losing our grip on what is publicly certifiable. We built firewalls against smuggling, against leakage, against retroactivity. And now we have come to the most human part of all, error. Not as failure, not as shame, not as something to hide, but as signal, as information, as the raw material from which all learning is forged. A science that cannot acknowledge error cannot grow. A person who cannot say, "I was wrong," cannot become wiser. A civilization that hides its mistakes is doomed to repeat them. So let us be different. Let us welcome error as a teacher. Let us treat mismatch as information. Let us respond to being wrong with curiosity, not shame. Let us build cultures where error is celebrated as discovery. Because error is not the opposite of knowledge. Error is the path to knowledge. Every wrong turn teaches us where the path isn't. Every failed prediction shows us where our model needs work. Every mismatch reveals the edge of our understanding. And beyond that edge, new territory, new discovery, new wisdom. Error is not the end of inquiry. Error is where inquiry begins. Always peace be upon you.